It is 2025, summer. The wind picks up a little as you look out over the North Sea, the rumbling waves crashing over the ancient stones of the harbour. Less than a mile away, the mighty Dunbar United are warming up, ready to take on Dundonald Bluebell in the East of Scotland Football League Premier Division. It should be a doozy. You're surrounded on all sides by evidence of this wee town's history, of its fortification against forces from the land and from the sea. Dunbar may be a quiet place now, but the remains of the battery built in the 18th century to protect the town from pirates stand just to your side. There's now a lovely little outdoor amphitheatre placed within the defensive walls, the perfect place to put on a concert or a play or even a live podcast. Call me. But behind you, the decrepit remains of Dunbar Castle jut out from a rocky outcropping that seems to be undercut by the harbour. Some evidence of a tower hangs above the town. Some broken walls remain too. It's a bit of a sad sight, really. Hard to imagine it as a castle, let alone as one of Scotland's most formidable fortresses. Your reverie has carried you to where a quick Google told you the main gate into the old castle would have stood. There's nothing there now. Just the stench of rotting fish and the lobster creels that sit waiting along the harbour wall for Monday's return of the town's little fishing industry. You stand in dumb silence, trying desperately to picture a fortress with intimidating walls, trying to imagine not that these walls could give way at any moment, sending what remains of the castle into the sea, but that a stone dropped from those walls could kill a person. Ahead of you, a gaggle of wee boys are playing on the slope, boisterous wee guys kidding on that they're in the Avengers or something, completely uninspired by the remains of the castle which lie just feet away from them. One of them, Spider-Man from what you can work out, slips, dislodging one of the larger rocks on the slope, and sends a pile of creels flying. The wood and plastic clatters as they scuttle off, clearly hoping that you, an interloper, doesn't know any of their mums. You don't notice, though. The crash of the rock has thrown you back. From Be Quiet Media and The Big Light, this is Scottish History Out of Order, a podcast about history and where we made it. I'm Michael Wilson Park. It is 1338. Scotland is at war, again. The first war of Scottish independence was only won when Edward III, Longshank's grandson, signed the Treaty of Edinburgh and Northampton in 1328. Then, when Robert the Bruce died in 1332 and wee King David II ascended the throne at just 5 years old, the defeated English king took that moment to heroically march north and avenge his humiliation at the hands of the Scots. It didn't help that he was supported by a gang of Scottish noblemen who had sided with Edward's father in the First War. They had been stripped of their lands and titles by the Bruce after refusing to return to his peace following the Battle of Bannockburn. They would stop at nothing to get their lands back. Edward Balliol, the son of one of the First War's big hitters, John Balliol, has brought an army north to invade his homeland, landing his ships at Kinghorn in Fife. And when he did that, things exploded. Fast forward 6 years, and after much toing and froing, Scotland has regained almost the entirety of its territory, despite David II being taken in by King Philip VI of France, setting up a court in exile. In the midst of all this chaos stands Dunbar Castle, whose Lord Patrick, the 9th Earl of Dunbar and March, is away. As is the way in the 14th century, he has left his wife Agnes, Countess of Dunbar and March, in charge of running, general castle bits and pieces and manor business. In fact, if it comes to it, Countess Agnes would actually be responsible for the defence of the castle. Enter William Montagu, the first Earl of Salisbury, English nobleman, devotee of Edward III, and all-round man at the head of an army. An army which is camped in front of Dunbar Castle. Suddenly, in this biting cold January of 1338, Agnes and her household are responsible for defending one of Scotland's major strongholds against an invading English army. As the small force of guards and terrified servants look out over the walls, with the tents and the siege engines of the English forces massed close by, they feel that sinking feeling that all is lost. How can they be expected to defend against an entire army? Step forward the lady of the manor. Black Agnes strides onto the battlements and surveys the scene before her. Nothing the English have available seems to instill even the slightest fear in her. Agnes has no intention of ceding Dunbar Castle to the old enemy, and William Montagu has no intention of turning tail and heading homeward to think again. So the siege of Dunbar Castle has begun. The English, equipped with knights, horses, ladders, trebuchets and battering rams. Black Agnes, armed with only thick stone walls and pithy wordplay. Round 1. The barrage. It takes a while for the trebuchets to be dragged into range. As you watch from the wall, the intimidation factor is sky high. If that was the aim of the game, then they'd have won already. Everyone pulls back from the walls as the trebuchets are primed. The counterweight box is loaded with stones. The channel for the throwing arm is coated in grease. The English soldiers begin to load giant rocks. And then the rocks begin to smash against the castle's walls. Some land on the parapet. If you were standing up there, you'd be in trouble, but Dunbar's no small fortress and everyone's able to take cover safely. Eventually the attack is called off. They could have fired all the stones and lead shot they wanted into the walls. They weren't coming down. As soon as it's safe, Countess Agnes sends a couple of her attendants out onto the ramparts, where she orders them to dust off the mighty walls with their dainty white handkerchiefs, laughing all the time. They warp it at the walls' great stains, baith hard and hewy for the nains, boat that nane merrying to them made, and also when they cast ein haid, with a towel a damsel arrayed jollily and well, wipe at the wall that they might see, to gear them mair annoyed be. Montagu seethes and sets his second plan against her. Round 2. The besieging sow. Can't beat them with big rocks? Try a big drill. The English soldiers bring forward the latest toy, the sow, a massive siege engine like a giant drill covered by a canopy to protect the miners driving it from attack from, castle battlements. For most castles, this would strike fear into the hearts of the defenders. If they could undermine the walls, the army could flood in and the English would have a valuable stronghold that might help them turn the tide of the war back into their favour. As it trundles towards the wall, Black Agnes just shrugs it off.
Take good care of your sow, Montagu, for I will soon cast your pigs within the fortress.
As the giant drill begins to turn, committed to its job of penetrating the walls, Agnes has one of the boulders thrown at them by the English trebuchets brought forward. It is pushed over the parapet, and it drops, much like you'd expect a giant boulder to, crushing the sow and the miners working within.
Behold your sow, Montagu! It is farrowing!
2-0 to Black Agnes. Montagu comes steaming forward with a retinue, fuming and desperate to retrieve what's left of his siege engine. As he steps into range, an arrow thwips from the walls, striking an English knight, piercing his armour and his heart, killing him on the spot. Montagu shouts up,
"Oh, there! Come one of my lady's tyre pins! Agnes's love shafts go straight to the heart!"
The weeks and months tick by. Montagu becomes more and more desperate. The defending Scots and their indomitable leader seem completely unperturbed by everything he tries. Round 3. The Bride. You can imagine the scene. Montagu and his commanders looking around at their failed schemes and casting about for something to try next, their eyes falling on a big old chest of cash. The plan is set. The English will bribe the keeper of the main gate, and he will either open the gate or leave it in such a state that the assaulting army can open it nice and easily. The keeper of the gate is delighted to take their money, and an agreement is made that a small party would be admitted beyond the main gate. Unbeknown to Agnes and her defenders, the English would be inside, and the castle would be overrun in no time. There is one problem for Montagu and his men, though, since the porter of the gate is even more duplicitous than they'd thought and immediately takes the details of the plan to Countess Agnes, and the defenders lay their own plot. So forward comes Montagu and his little raiding party at the appointed time. So far, so good. Montagu and one of his followers, a man named Copeland, approach the gate first, and as the leader of the English invaders goes to cross the threshold and take his first breath as the soon-to-be conqueror of Dunbar Castle, Copeland gets a rush of blood to the head and pushes past him, crossing under the portcullis first. The portcullis, which immediately falls behind him, trapping him inside the gate, a prisoner of the defending Scots. Montagu knows he's had a really lucky escape, but that doesn't stop Agnes taunting him from the walls as he turns tail.
Oh, farewell, Montagu. I intended that you should have supped with us and assisted us in defending the castle against the English.
That's it. No more Mr. Nice Montagu. No more bribes, no more machines, no more big rocks, no more, to coin a phrase he almost certainly wouldn't have used, pissing about. Round 4, the hanging man. William Montagu isn't used to losing. He's the favourite general of Edward III, and here he is, freezing his arse off on the North Sea coast, being constantly beaten back by a woman and her household who not only beat him but constantly take the piss out of him. He's making him feel small, humiliated, shrivelled in the trouser, if you take my meaning, and so he has a man brought to him, a prisoner taken in an ambush a few years before. The man had been the joint regent, the protector of all Scotland until his capture. But today, John Randolph, the 3rd Earl of Moray, is here at Dunbar Castle as just one thing: Black Agnes's brother. He is paraded in front of the walls, as Agnes, who has not seen him in years, is given her options. She can relent and allow the English to occupy the castle, or they will take the noose that they've placed around John's neck and string him up from the nearest tree while she watches him die. Check and mate. William Montagu would be in command of the castle by sundown. Except Agnes looks down on him from the walls and laughs. She laughs. She laughs in the face of the execution of her brother. She tells William Montagu that her brother's death would be ideal for her, since she's in line to inherit his lands. She actually seems quite excited by the prospect. What kind of woman is this? Montagu knows she's right, though. He sighs and orders that John Randolph be removed. Another failed scheme. Black Agnes is called his bluff. Really, there's only one thing left for it. Round 5, the blockade. If this is how they want it, then fine. There's a surefire way to win any siege, and Montagu, up until now, had been avoiding it. You can't defend a castle if you're starving to death, too weak to pick up a sword, or deliver some snide comment. Better still, you can't defend a castle if you've starved to death before the army attacks. So Montagu moves up his men, encircles the castle, and starts the process of blockading them from the sea. Communications with the outside world are cut. Food supplies are terminated. All the English have to do now is wait. So while we're waiting for the food to run out and the defending Scots to starve, I should tell you that the Scottish Wars of Independence were wars that the English should have been winning easily. The English were the superior military force in terms of both numbers and training, and the Scots were operating using hit-and-run guerrilla tactics, forcing the English into uncomfortable positions and hitting them where it hurts. In fact, you could say that Dunbar Castle is a microcosm of this whole conflict. the well-equipped English being bettered at every opportunity by a Scottish force that, on paper, should be getting ground into a fine powder in the face of English military might. Elsewhere, another microcosm of the war is hiding in a cave with some of his men. Sir Alexander Ramsay of Dalhousie has been conducting smash-and-grab raids against the English occupiers, when word reaches him that Dunbar Castle, that famous bastion that has been standing up to the tyranny of Edward's favourite, keeping him stuck in place for months, has been blockaded. Black Agnes, who along with her household have become folk heroes, will starve. Unless somebody does something about it. Round 6. The tables have turned. Ramsay takes some small boats and sets off for Dunbar, using the cover of a moonless June night to evade the English blockade and access the castle by the postern, a sneaky back entrance next to the sea. Suddenly, the tide of the siege turns. With the English so closely pressed to the castle, Ramsay and his men are able to combine with the guards and charge out, taking the English by surprise and pushing them back until they have to retreat back to their main camp. There's even a story, probably apocryphal, that prior to the attack, Black Agnes has a freshly baked loaf of bread and a cup of wine sent out to Montagu, just in case he's hungry. Faced with the realisation that not even starving her out can stop Countess Agnes, Montagu gives up the ghost and packs in the siege following Ramsay's attack in June 1338. Over 5 months, he's been beaten, humiliated, and seen his credibility crushed numerous times by this indefatigable woman who just would not give up. The legend of Black Agnes, the Countess of Dunbar and March, would become a rallying cry, a tale passed from mouth to mouth, showing that even the greatest army could be humbled by one person's undying resolve. It was a story that kept the flame of independence alive in a time where it seemed like it might be extinguished forever. But Agnes did so much more than just survive, she inspired. And when Edward III decided that his war on Scotland was much less important than pressing his claim on the French crown, the English withdrew, focusing their efforts and manpower on the conflict that would go on to become known as the 100 Years' War. The woman who shamed the English into retreat became a folk hero, and inspired Scottish soldiers whose battle for independence continued with the remnants of the English armies that Edward III could spare. It would continue until 1357, but that's another story. As for Agnes, her impact on the army that besieged her was profound. As the men trudged south, they penned a song for their conqueror. She makes a stir in tower and trench, that brawling, boisterous Scottish wench. Came I early, came I late, I found Agnes at the gate. You've been listening to Scottish History Out of Order. It was written and produced by me, Michael Wilson Park, with engineering and mastering by Brian McAlpine. This episode was a co-production of Be Quiet Media and The Big Light. This piece references Andrew Wyton's original chronicle from the 1400s, which was displayed at the British Library's Medieval Women in Their Own Words exhibition. Thanks for listening. Look after each other. We'll see you next time.